Hello friends, welcome. Friends, today we are going to do a very interesting analysis. This is about how our economy is performing. And the viewers who are watching this video, I'm quite sure they will like this analysis and might be quite thought provoking. So friend, what is this analysis all about? So friends, whenever we talk about economy, the economy is measured by the economist by using certain matrices. Now, there could be various matrices where you can use that to measure the progress of our economy. So what I have done is I have aggregated 29 different matrices, and watching how these matrices have behaved over a period of time, we can conclude about what the reflection that these matrices have on the overall aspects of our economy. So we are going to compare these matrices against each other and see how these matrices are behaving over a period of time and what story that these matrices tell. Now, before I go into this analysis, it is important for me to explain to you what I am trying to do. Now, friends, if you look at this particular chart which is in front of you, there are 29 different matrices. Some of these matrices actually creates value generation. For example, if you look at this BAC index, so more the index goes higher, more value it gets created. But there are certain matrices, for example, the general index of CPI, which is the measure of inflation, and the GDP deflator, and the USD-Rupee rate. If these numbers, these indices inflate over a period of time, they cause value destruction. Why they cause value destruction? Because more the inflation that happens in these indices, the purchasing power of the economy decreases and the consumers get impacted because they are not able to get the same value of their purchases by giving away or by doing a transaction with a certain volume of money, because the value of money will decrease. So some aspects of some of these indices are basically adding to a reflection of value, and some of the indices are actually creating value destruction. So I have aggregated all these matrices, and what I've done is that I have used a period as a reference, which is third quarter of 2013. So all the indices, the value of those indices have been normalized to 1 in that particular time frame, and then whatever the value was at that particular point of time, which is the normalized value, and as the value of those indices have inflated over a period of time, I have created a ratio. Means, for example, let's assume that by FY24 Q1, if a value of a particular index has, let's say, gone to 200, I'm just making an assumption here, or just basically for the purpose of explanation, and the starting period it was 100, which was FY 2013, then you can basically say the ratio of the index, the inflation of the ratio of the index has been 200 divided by 100, which is 2. So these numbers which you see in front of your screen are the inflation which has taken place on those index when you take one particular time period as a reference, which is FY 2013, end of FY 2013. So that is in short which I am trying to do, and trying to see what kind of story that this data tells us. Now, before I am doing this analysis, it is very important for me to do certain data preparation. So what I have done is that I have used various Excel sheets. If you look at this, these are basically raw data. So what is this data? First data is basically talking about the BSE index. The BSE index, so I have taken it from the 31st January 2012, and I have gone up to 31st December 2023. So how the index have behaved right from this particular period to end of this period, have noted it, and I put it in this Excel sheet. I downloaded it. Similarly, the CPI indexes have behaved over a particular period of time. For example, if you look at this index, you will find that it has been presented in a descending order. So the starting period starts from 31st January 2013, where the indices were roughly at the level of 100, right? Because it actually started much before that, but I have taken it from 31st January 2013, and now it has inflated to a level of which is more than 100. Like if you look at the combined index, CPI index, it is 186.3 compared to what it was in 2013, which was January 2013, which was 104.5. So the inflation has been, you have to divide these two numbers, and that will give you the inflation, what kind of inflation has happened. Similarly, I have taken the BSE, after BSE index I have already discussed. I have spoken about this, and then I have basically taken other indices, like let me just give you the other indices. Yeah. So I have taken GDP. For example, if you look at the GDP indices, if you see that this is an aggregation of GDP constant and GDP current. There are different line items which describes GDP constant and GDP current. So what I have done is that I have taken the ratio of GDP current, which is the nominal GDP, to GDP constant, which gives us the indication of deflator. This is basically the way to calculate deflator. At the start period, when the series started, the series actually started sometimes in 2010. So you will notice that GDP constant number and the GDP current number, which is the nominal GDP, more or less almost of the same value, right? And it almost like, because everything is set at 100, right? And then over a period of time, these numbers diverge. Like for example, if you see 30th September 2023, GDP constant number is something around 4174312. Now this number has become, GDP current number has become 7166157. So you can say that there has been inflation which has happened in the economy, because if you divide these two numbers, that is 7166157 to 4174312, that will give you the GDP deflator, which is a measure of inflation. And economists consider this as a better measure of inflation, because it actually creates an aggregation of all goods and services of the economy versus the CPI index, which has only a smaller category of substance which goes into that particular index, right? So these are the indexes I have taken and I have calculated. I have done some data preparation. Before I go into this analysis, I have done some data preparation, and for which what I have done, I am going to give you a little bit of peek as to how the data preparation has happened, because the numbers were for different period of time. So what I had to do is I had to align with the quarter numbers, because if you look at the GDP numbers are always declared on a quarter basis. However, there are certain matrices, for example, inflation, they are on a monthly basis, right? And then the stock market indexes are basically on a daily basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, because stock market is active all the time. Similarly, dollar numbers can be on a daily basis, monthly basis. So what I have to do is I have to aggregate or align these numbers to a reference level, so that I can do the comparison, which is on a quarterly basis. So I have used this particular sheet, a Python program, to align it and to do some data preparation, and this is the final matrix which actually got created, and I have saved this matrix in the disk and then uploaded in the Tableau dashboard, which is the heat map, right? So let's now, after having explained to you this, given you this preview, what I have done, now I think it will be much more meaningful and you will be able to understand what is going on in this analysis. Let's now start analyzing it and showing you the final results. So I'm going to blow this out in front of your screen so that you can see it. So if you look at this chart, it gives you the time axis is here. So it is on a quarter basis. The last quarter which I have assumed here, I have taken is FY24 Q2, because the GDP numbers were available only up to that quarter. So therefore I have not gone beyond that. But the starting quarter, if I take you to the starting quarter, which is basically going back in time by 32 quarters. Let me just go to a little bit more and see that it was FY13 Q4. That is the starting quarter. So if you see, all the matrices have been normalized to 1 here. And depending upon how the numbers have inflated over a period of time, you can see as it progresses with time, quarter by quarter, right? So I think you probably have understood. Now let's get back to the initial, as we were at the beginning part of this presentation. Now, if you look at this particular chart, you will notice that this is the present period of time, and we are looking at 12 quarters. 12 is the number of time units. So FY24 Q2, FY24 Q1, FY23 Q4. Like that, we are looking at 12 quarters. Now, what I can do is that I can go back in time 4 quarter wise. 4 quarter is 1 year. So if I put 4 quarters, so this will become FY24 Q2 will become FY23 Q2. So FY24 Q2 will become FY23 Q2. So if I put 4 here, you will see. So 4 quarters back in time we have gone. Now what you see here, before we go back in time, but let's look at the final numbers. The final numbers is that you can see that the BSE small cap index from 1 has gone up to 6.47, means it has inflated to 6.47. It has created a value of 6.47 times than what it was in the beginning of the starting period, which was FY13 Q4, which is significant. Similarly, the next item in line is BSE mid cap, which is 5.27. It has inflated by 5.27 times than what it was in the beginning. BSE index has inflated to 3.49 times. So these numbers are telling you that how much wealth an investor has been able to create by investing at the beginning part of the period, and now how much their wealth has increased if they have stayed invested in the indices. Now let's look at the other important metrics is the CPI index, which is the inflation index which we have measured, which is a combined index. Now this index has inflated by a number of 1.75 times than what it was in FY13 Q4, which means that our economy has inflated by 1.75 times than what it was in the beginning of FY2014, which is basically the end of FY13. Right? Then comes the GDP deflator. Now, if you look at GDP deflator, it has inflated by 1.55 times. So, though the CPI index is basically showing as a higher inflation, the GDP deflator is showing a lower inflation. And the USD rates have inflated by 1.53 times from the starting period. Now, let's go back in time and see how these indices are behaving. So, let's go 4 quarters back in time. Now, if you go 4 quarters back in time, you will find that I have marked these main indices by cross, because look at these crosses, and these are the crosses which you should be basically looking at how they behave and how they change over a period of time. Because there are other indices here which are basically nothing but the sub item of the general index, like spices, meat, vegetable, pan and tobacco, oil, fat, preparation of meal, health. These basically converge into the general index. So the reason I have segregated these items separately, because consumer is impacted by the purchase of these items. So we should know that how the behavior of the person, how these items are going to impact the consumer who are more prone to these products, right? Because the general index will not give you the actual impact. Everybody might have a different type of behavior. So it is important for us to see how the behavior of an individual will, how the consumer purchases of products will impact the overall, what kind of impact it will have the consumer depending upon the type of purchases he does in the economy, right? So that's why these items have been segregated out, and the general index has also been shown. So look at these crosses and see how these crosses are changing. So 4 quarters back in time, you will find that small cap index is at the top, the mid cap index is at the top, the BSE is third, the general index is 15, the GDP deflator is on 25th, and the USD rates are at 27. Sugar and confectionery is basically at the bottom. Means that there has been no inflation in prices in sugar and confectionery, which is sugar. People, the government is trying to suppress the prices because people like to eat sugar. Okay. Now let's look at 8 quarters back in time. Now 8 quarters back in time basically gives nothing has changed significantly, right? Let me just go back again, see, because yeah, it has changed a little bit, but the GDP deflator has gone and become more closer to the USD rates. If you see the Rupee USD rates, the Rupee USD rates have gone higher, the GDP deflator has gone lower, the general index remains the same, and all these 3 items actually have remained the same. Let's go back 12 quarters back in time. Now what we see, the small cap is still on the top, the mid cap is still on the top, the BSE vegetable has gone up, right? BSE index has gone down by one pedestal. The general index has gone up by 2 pedestals. The USD rates have gone up by many pedestals, and the GDP deflators remain the same at the same level, right? Then let's go back to 16 quarter. Nothing much has changed, right? 16 quarter. 20 quarters, let's go back in time. Nothing much has changed. See, 24 quarters, let's go back in time. Nothing much has changed. 28 quarters back in time. Since the same story, right? Nothing much has changed. The only thing is that the USD rates have been fluctuating here and there, right? Then we go back to 32 quarters back in time. The BSE numbers have gone up, but still the small cap and the mid cap indexes are still at the topmost level. And then we go 36 quarter back in time, which is the final number, which we find that the GDP inflator index is at the bottom, the USD is at the top, the general index is actually somewhere in middle, and then we have the small cap, the mid cap, and the BSE index. Now, what story does it tell? The story that it tells is that whoever is investing in stocks, they are getting richer day by day, because the stocks are generating more value in the economy compared to anything else. And whoever doesn't have the capability to invest in the stock market, the general consumers, they are getting extracted, their value is getting more and more, their value is getting depressed, because they have to purchase all these items, fruits, milk products, housing, vegetables, spices, education, because their capability to spend on these products are becoming more and more strained going forward, because they really don't have to unlock value, because for them the stock markets are not the medium for investment, because they don't have disposable income, right? So this is the story. This whole analysis is telling us that people who have money is able to generate more money by investing in the stock markets, and people who do not have money and they are hand to mouth, they are getting strained in the economy. It's a very clear-cut analysis. Look at this. The numbers are right in front of you, and you can tell the story by looking at this analysis by yourself. And the most important item, which is the vegetable, which is the most important item, is putting maximum strain on the people. So let's go back where we were. You see, vegetable is still 6 here, but the vegetable, meat and fishes, spices have always remained on the top. Pulses, for example, you see, they're always on the top, right? Pan and tobacco, anyway, we should not care about this. It should always remain, should be in the highest, because people should not use these products. But health, pulses, vegetable, meat, spices, they are actually creating a lot of stress on the economy and the people's ability to, purchase these services. So I think, friends, you can tell yourself, where we are as far as the economy is concerned, and how our economic character should change over a period of time, so that the common man should be able to harness maximum benefit out of this economy. We don't want the stock markets to generate value only. Stock markets should generate value, but they should not be the only vehicle for creating wealth. Because people don't have the ability to invest in stock market. They don't have a disposable income. Let's understand this. And that is why we need, for a holistic growth, it is important for us to contain inflation and create more avenues for people to generate disposable income, so that their daily lives are not getting impacted. Because look at these items. Spices, meat, fish, vegetable, pulses, prepared meals, health, personal care, clothing, housing. These are basically straining our people's ability to live in our economy. So let's understand and let's appreciate that. And that is the reason I did this analysis, so as to get an overview as to where we are and how the lives of common man is getting impacted, and who are getting maximum benefited and who are not. So stock market is not an indicator of the health of the economy. If you really want to live in a market where people are happy and they are not strained, we have to understand that we have to contain inflation, we have to generate more and more avenues for people to make money, so that they are not constrained from the point of view of buying basic products and services. And today in our economy, basics, products and services prices are inflating day by day, and people are not able to find disposable income to buy those items. So friends, I hope that you probably like my video and analysis. And if you really like it, let me know in the comment section. And if you want anything else that I should cover, let me know. I will come back to you with another video next time. Thank you very much. Thanks for your patient hearing.